He's Chase Sr. I'm Harrison Graham. You're watching Any Given Thursday live on Chat Sports every Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific time. We love to talk college football because Chase and I are real ones. On today's show, we're going to take a look at the updated top 10 candidates to replace Clay Helton at the head coach of USC. Just some background, Helton was fired almost a month ago now on September 14th. It's been up and down since then for SC. That record actually isn't even updated, but who cares? The Trojans aren't even a factor. Coaching search is ongoing, won't be rushed into making a decision. That's been true throughout. I wouldn't expect the decision to become before the end of the regular season. A lot of candidates, Chase, have been connected to this job opening, so it'll be very interested to see how this plays out over the next couple of months. Obviously, USC has to navigate through this season, but the real storyline there is who's the next head coach going to be.
And it's been a wide-ranging list of candidates
for
this gig, which is one of the best gigs out there. Now, what's going to happen with Ed Orgeron and LSU? If
that's
that
the
job
X factor.
Becomes available, that's probably the best opening in college football. But USC is doing its due diligence. They're looking at college coaches. They're looking at former NFL head coaches. They're looking at NFL offensive coordinators. And I like that. You kind of got to stretch wide to try to get the best candidate available. And obviously coming up, we'll take a look at some of those candidates.
Look, USC knows they have to get this hire right because they haven't had one right in a while. So predict it for us. Who will be the next head coach at USC? This will be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, scroll on down, go to the pinned comment, reply to this, and then come back up, and we'll get into our top 10 candidates. All right, we'll reveal from 10 to 1, and this is basically a combination of names that have been mentioned and names that Chase and I are interested in that USC should go after. So at number 10, Bill O'Brien. I don't think either of us are super high on him, but he was okay at Penn State with the fallout of Joe Paterno, did some decent things.
I think he was better than okay.
Yeah.
He stabilized the program,
yeah.
And that then led to James Franklin taking over and making it a top 10 perennial program.
I think as a pure coach of the Texans, he actually was fine. He should have not been the GM, though.
No.
And that was very clear. And
he's won a lot of games.
And he's rebuilding his image at Alabama, calling plays there, doing a great job with Bryce Young. We've got him at number 10. There's better guys out there, but I think he's someone that could be in the mix. At number 9, a name that was talked about early on, but not a lot of chatter recently, Chase, but someone I would still have interested in, Eric Bieniemy. And there's been some chatter that USC would like to hire an NFL coach, this being the Chiefs' offensive coordinator.
Colorado was in on Eric Bieniemy because he went there and obviously has a lot of ties to that university. He turned that job down to go back to Kansas City as their offensive coordinator, where he's done a terrific job with helping to develop Patrick Mahomes and having one of the league's most explosive offenses. He has been quoted in the past as saying, if there was one college job that were to come open that I would be interested in, it would be USC.
Yes.
I think he'd be great as a play caller. I think he'd be able to build a good staff because he's been in the NFL for a long time. And in terms of recruiting, everybody raves about this guy. So I think he'd be able to get along well with the athletes and their families and really make a strong impression.
Yeah, when you hear these Chiefs players, especially these young guys, they rave about him.
Yes,
they absolutely love him. So I think he's an interesting candidate. He doesn't call plays for the Chiefs, but Andy Reid has given him the seal of approval. So I think that goes a very long way. Should USC hire an NFL coach, whether that being an NFL head coach or an NFL offensive or defensive coordinator or a position coach, of course? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Should USC go to the pro ranks like they did with Pete Carroll almost 20 years ago? At number 8, Jeff Hafley. This is a name I like. Maybe he's not ready for this type of job, Chase, but was the DC at Ohio State. Really liked the work he did there. What he's done in a short amount of time at Boston College, very competitive. They should have beaten Clemson last week. Not that Clemson's great this year. They're 4-1 this year. He's got them going bowling every year. This is Boston College, okay? This is a middle-of-the-pack, at best, ACC program. They're probably going to win 8 or 9 games this year. He brings attitude. He brings injury. He's young and energetic, enthusiastic. I like Jeff Hafley a lot. Maybe this isn't the time for him to get a premier job, but I think he's coming, and I think he's a guy that people should start to know about and learn about in the very near future, Chase, because I'm a big fan of what he's done in a short amount of time.
It's pretty crazy to see how competitive Boston College has been over the last year plus and how better they've gotten over time since that disaster of Steve Adazio.
You can just tell they're well coached.
They were really just a 500 team with Adazio. They seem so much more legit and competitive with Jeff Hafley.
Well, we know Joe Brady's a big name out there. I would have him higher on this list, but again, it's a combination of names that are realistically in the mix and guys that we like. It really applies to Kellen Moore as well. We'll talk about Brady and Moore here. We'll just kind of tie them together. I would have them higher, but I think both these guys have real shots of being NFL head coaches next year, and I would rather take that than going to USC, right?
Joe Brady and Kellen Moore are two names that I would make them tell me no.
Yes,
so I would
that.
put the bag on their desk and say, here is a large sum of money for you to come in and bring USC football back.
Push it back to my side of the table.
Push it back to my side of the table. I want you to tell me no. And until you do that, I'm going to keep trying. Joe Brady did terrific work with Joe Burrow when he won the Heisman and the national championship. LSU hasn't been the same offense since. And he's gone into the NFL, and his offense has translated. Did a really good job with Teddy Bridgewater. He's brought Sam Darnold back.
Former USC quarterback Sam Darnold.
Yes, exactly.
He saved him.
Kellen Moore has Dak Prescott playing like an MVP candidate.
Yep.
Jason Garrett deserves credit for how Dak Prescott entered the league and developed, but Kellen Moore has taken him to a truly elite level. Dak's pre-snap recognition has been great. The play design has been beautiful. Kellen Moore and Joe Brady would be no-brainers.
Both these guys are in their early 30s. You could have your next coach of the next 25 years if this goes right. And they're young, they're energetic. I think they relate to young kids.
I think they like the NFL game too much, though.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you can get an NFL head coaching job, it's hard to turn down.
Yeah.
I mean, there's maybe 5 college jobs that are more valuable than being a head NFL coach. I don't know if USC's in that category at this point.
Not at this point.
I think
has the potential to be, though.
Like if you're Kellen Moore and the Bears job opens up and you could work with Justin Fields.
Rather go to Chicago.
Wouldn't you go to Chicago
Major
over
market,
USC? I mean,
historic franchise.
It's interesting. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. Chase and I love talking college football, and if we continue to get subscribers on these videos, we'll keep talking it for you guys. youtube.com/chatsportstv, and join us every Thursday live for any given Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern and 2 o'clock Pacific. Let's get into the top 5 here. Okay, Matt Campbell. Maybe he's lost, a little bit of juice because Iowa State's not quite as good as we thought this year. I still think he's very highly touted in this sport. Iowa State was maybe a very small notch ahead of Kansas when he took over that job. He took them to the Big 12 title game last year, won a New Year's Six Bowl, I believe the Fiesta Bowl, over Oregon a year ago. He's winning 8 or 9 games a year at Iowa State. Iowa State, not Iowa, Iowa State.
And beating Oklahoma.
Yeah, he beats Oklahoma last year, almost double dips them in the Big 12 title game, loses by a field goal. He's doing a great job. Maybe they're disappointing a bit this year, but I can promise you this, ADs around the country continue to call him and his agent because they really, really like what he's all about. Number 4, Anthony Lynn. We talked about him last week, Chase. The chatter of the NFL being an interest from USC. Let's go get an NFL coach. He coached in LA with the Chargers. We got him at number 4 because there's been a lot of, rumors around him.
For the same qualities that we spoke about Eric Bieniemy. Now, I'm not sure Anthony Lynn is on the level of being an offensive mind that Eric Bieniemy is at. And also, Andy Reid has a great coaching tree throughout the last 20 years. He's produced a lot of quality coaches. Anthony Lynn doesn't come from the same head coaching tree. But yeah, like you mentioned, he coached in Los Angeles. He doesn't really have any ties directly to USC, but he knows that area well. I think his NFL pedigree, because he played in the league, he's coached in it for a long time, would certainly help him out. And maybe from a play calling standpoint, he would have an edge on a lot of college defensive coordinators because he was at the top of the top in the National Football League. And I like his personality as the face of a program and the personality leader of a program and a culture changer.
We have to include Urban Meyer, who's in the headlines for all of the wrong reasons.
Shelley's off Twitter now.
Let me be very, very clear. I would not do this. I don't think I would do this. And I know he's not super old, but he feels old for his age. I can't remember the last time, and Jeremy Chugs, he's grinding like Urban Meyer at the nightclub, and not even a nightclub, just like a bar restaurant. His own, by the way, in the state of Ohio.
The hand placement was questionable.
Yeah, it's there could have been some legal ramifications if that young lady wanted there to be, but we'll leave that to the authorities. The bottom line is the guy wins games.
He does. 80% of them throughout his career. Maybe
I
even more.
wonder if he's kind of past his prime, because I don't know if the energy is what it once was. You look at him in the sidelines in these press conferences, and this goes back to his last year at Ohio State, by the way. This is not just Jacksonville. I don't know if he has it anymore, man. I don't know how desirable he is to want to coach. I don't know if the energy necessary is there. And I've also heard that he values the relationship with Ohio State too much to go coach in another blue blood college football program, which is why he went to the Jags.
To me. Yeah,
maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I don't know. He's at number 3. He's won a lot in college. He's a top 5 college coach ever based on wins and losses, but man, this is a tough sell, especially at this point in time. Look, someone put it to me great. I'll actually give Mini Coop in the office credit. He said his dad told him this. Urban Meyer is like Rick Pitino. You're going to win a lot of games. It's going to come at a big cost and a lot of baggage, and the public perception is not going to look good, and it's not going to last long. Yeah. Like, if you hire Urban Meyer, you're hoping you get 5 years out of it. And if you're USC, do you want that?
And there could be some sanctions.
Do you want a short-term solution? He's on the list, and we'll ask you guys. Clearly, y'all can tell I'm having a tough time with this. Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. Would you hire Urban Meyer? Is SC that desperate, Chase? Has it gotten that bad?
If I was the AD, I would make the call. My first option would be Lane Kiffin. My second option might be Urban Meyer, because at the end of the day, all I would really care about in that position is bringing USC football back, winning games, and getting back to national prominence. And I think Urban Meyer would be able to do that. Now,
there's a lot of good
we
coaches
talk about Eric
out there.
Bieniemy and Anthony Lynn being character leaders of a program and great faces for a university. I'm not sure Urban Meyer would be that. I'm not sure about his moral compass, but he gets paid to win football
I am
games.
sure about his moral compass, and there's 20 years of evidence of it being very questionable.
Exactly.
So, let us know. All right, we'll get to the top 2. Luke Fickell, look, the AD connection, right? Mike Bohn hired him at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's probably about to run the table, and they might actually be the first group of 5 team to get into the college football playoff, because the Pac-12 and ACC have pretty much played themselves out of it. So, I mean, if you lead Cincinnati to the freaking college football playoff, I mean, what he has done there has been unbelievable, Chase.
It has, and he's such a good defensive mind, too. You watch Cincinnati play defense. They shut down Notre Dame last week.
Oh, totally.
And he has made Cincinnati a realistic contender to get into the college football playoff. If they run the slate and go undefeated, they have a tough enough schedule, and the American Athletic Conference is competitive enough for Cincinnati to be considered.
And I think the Pac-12 and ACC are basically cooked.
Yes.
So, I mean,
that's what opens up an avenue for them to make it.
If Cincinnati wins out, I mean, you got to like their chances of getting in. At number 1, James Franklin. This continues to be the name that gets the most buzz. The LA Times put out an article kind of categorizing from, hot to cool, and they had no one in the hot category, but they have James Franklin as the only coach in the warm category. I still think he's going to leverage a raise yet again at Penn State, which is what he should do, especially since Penn State might win the Big Ten this year.
I'll continue to say this. I covered Penn State for a little while, and I think James Franklin has done an unbelievable job of bringing Penn State back, working off the momentum that Bill O'Brien had built up. Look, if you're James Franklin, you have a top 5 team, you go out and you beat Iowa, you're going to be in the mix for the college football playoff. Still games remaining against Iowa, Michigan, and Ohio State. If you run the table, you're a shoo-in for the college football playoff. You have one of the best defenses that you've ever had, probably the best, with pros littered all across the field. You have the top recruiting class in 2022, so the pipeline is there to continue this momentum and continue this success. Use that leverage to make Penn State pay you more. That's what I'm doing if I'm James Franklin. $8.5 million or somewhere in that neighborhood. That's his salary right now with Penn State. That goes a longer way in PA than it does in California with those taxes. And you have everything there. Nationwide brand, great fan base, one of the best atmospheres in college football. The players are there. You've churned out pro products over time. If I'm James Franklin, I'm staying put at a sure thing as compared to going to something that has potential but is unsure.
So we asked you guys at the beginning, and this is our 5-1 candidates: Matt Campbell, Anthony Lynn, Urban Meyer, Luke Fickell, and James Franklin. So let us know what you think. Who will be the next head coach at USC? Maybe you didn't know when we asked you earlier. We went through our candidates. If there's another name out there, you can type that. But just type one of the 10 names we typed out for you guys. Who will be leading USC's football program next season?